Hello everyone, how are you? In the previous lecture, we make a join or join the computer, the client Windows 7 to the domain, but using the static IP address. I mean, we add the IP address manually, just add the IP address and DNS. In this lecture or in this video, we will just same thing. We want to add the computer or add the client to the domain controller in the server, but using the dynamic IP address. That means from the DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. We talked about that in the previous lectures. Now the first thing you should just check if the computer join or not with the domain controller. Change setting, change again. Now the computer not join. Then now I want to add the IP address but dynamically from the dynamic IP address from the server, not manually. Just go to the change adapter and right click properties, same thing, IP4. Now here we have static IP address. Now I want to obtain the IP address from the server and obtain the DNS from the server, and OK and OK. Now I just make this, but now there is no server or no DHCP server to distribute the IP address to the client, to the Windows 7 here. And if you check here, just go to the CMD and make a ping to the server. Now you can see transmit failed because there is no IP address, there is no DNS, so I cannot make a ping to the server. There is no connection. Now the first thing, I want to make the server or make my server DHCP server. Of course, you should go to the manage and add the role and feature and add the DHCP server. If you don't know that, just go to the previous lecture. We talk about that. Not the previous lecture, I mean we talk about that in the another lecture. So here now from tool, you can see DHCP. I already installed the DHCP in the server. Now I want to add a scope because I want to distribute the IP address to the client. So just click here, IP4, right click and the new scope. Next, add the name of the scope, for example, scope 1 or whatever. Next, here I want to add a range of IP address. Should be 4 here. Why? I talk about that. We want to distribute the IP address now from the server to the client. So the client and server should be the same class for the network class. The same thing. I mean the first three section should be same. 192, 168, and 4. After that, here for example from 10 or from 25 until 192, 168 and 4, and for example 50. I want just to make a range between 25 and 50. Now if you have computers in the network, many computers in the network, the server will distribute the IP address from 25 until 50 to the computers, but should be the first 3 or the network class should be the same, the server. Now next, now exclusion IP address, that means I want to reserve IP address to using manually with the printer or scanner or something like this. You can add or you can just ignore this step here, or you can add for example until 2, 168 and 4, and for example from my IP address from 25 until 50. So for example from 26 until 4, and for example until 30 or until 35 and add. Now the IP address, this range from 26 until 35, the server not distribute to the client, just reserve because I want to use it, for example, for the another thing. I want to add those IP address in this range manually. So just next. Here the list, we talk about that, the list duration. The server will distribute the IP address to the client just for the specific time or particular time, not for the infinite. Here by default 8 days. You can make it for example 4 days. That means the DHCP server will distribute the IP address to the client, to the Windows 7, for example, just for 4 days. After that, the Windows 7 should renew the IP address or make a request to the server to renew the IP address. Same IP address, but just renew the IP address after 4 days. Next, if you want to configure this option now for the router, just next, and you can add the IP address for the router, or you can ignore this. For example, 1 for the router. If you want to connect the network to with the internet. Now here I have the DNS and the domain name. Next, and yes, I want to activate this scope. If you make it no, I will activate the scope later. Just next and finish. You can see now my scope is not activation. You can see this here. Just double click in the scope and then right click and activate. Now I activate this scope. Now just double click on the scope. You can see address pool here. I have IP address from 25 until 50, but from 26 until 35 the server will not distribute to the client. And here address list, if the server distribute the IP address for the computer for the client, will you see the client here and the IP address here. Now there is no IP address because I don't distribute anything. Now just go to the client. I complete with the server side. Now you should go to the client and make the client obtain IP address. I do that. Now I will check if the IP address obtained or not. Just go IP config. Now you can see the IP address is not the IP address from the server. I want to add IP address from the server. Just say here IP config and then release. I want to release from the previous IP address and then IP config and renew. I want to download or get the IP address from the server. After that, you can see, just waiting for seconds. Now you can see I get the IP address from the server 192.168.4 and 25. You can see here 25. If you go here in the server and check the IP address 25, because I have from 25 until 50, but from 26 until 35 the server will not distribute, but 25, the first one, the server can distribute, so I have the first one here 25. And if you go to the list here and make a refresh, I can see the IP address and the computer usama.lab.com, this computer. Now I have IP address and also I have DNS, because the DNS from the server, you can see here scope option and the DNS server, you can see this DNS. This DNS also distribute to the client. Now I can join to the domain. After complete, I just distribute the IP address from the server to the client. Now I can join to the lab.com, my domain, and OK. Admin. Now welcome to the lab.com. Now I make a join between the computer and the server and the domain successfully with the dynamic IP address from the server. Thank you very much.